Welcome back to another episode of the And Now I Know podcast. I'm your host, 32 Flavazz, and I'm here to inspire you to live life at your fullest potential. If you're looking for a podcast that's going to inspire you to chase your dreams, motivate you to get up each and every day, and help you navigate life just a little bit better, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on any streaming platform, be sure to hit that follow button. Don't forget to download this episode and be sure to leave me some feedback because I love reading the reviews. Now, last episode, I decided to formally reintroduce myself because I know that I got some new listeners. So I'm going to do it one more time for the people in the back. Again, I go by 32 Flavazz across all platforms. I am a motivational speaker. I'm a mentor. I'm an influencer. I'm a content creator, and I'm also an entrepreneur. I believe that my life's purpose is to inspire others to live life at their fullest potential. So if you're looking for a podcaster, if you're looking for a blogger, influencer, whatever you want to consider me as, that is going to inspire you to be your best self, tap into all of my content because you will not be disappointed. And I'm looking forward to adding you into the community, right? Because we all about community, we all about family, and I'm so excited to connect with you. Now, last episode, the first episode of 2025, we talked about rebranding. What is rebranding? Rebranding is intentionally changing the way you present yourself to the world, whether that's personally or professionally or both, to align with your evolving goals, values, and identity. And I figured in order to thrive in your rebrand, you must master self-confidence. You must understand what it means to own your power. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So what does it mean to own your power? Owning your power in regards to self-confidence means fully embracing who you are, your strength, your voice, and your worth, right? Without seeking validation from others. It's about standing firm in your beliefs, trusting your abilities, and not shrinking yourself to make other people feel comfortable. When you own your power, you stop doubting whether you're good enough and you start moving through life with a sense of certainty and self-respect. If you do not have high confidence, 9 times out of 10, that self-respect is out the window. It's choosing to show up as your full, authentic self, even in the face of fear or uncertainty, because you know that your value isn't dependent on what other people think about you. So I believe that I'm qualified to discuss this subject, the subject of self-confidence and owning your power, because I was once a person who struggled with self-confidence because I was convinced by society that my confidence came from the things that I owned, the things that I could buy, and the people that I was around. Right. I believe that the money that I was making, the car that I was driving, and the way that I showed up in the world when we talking about appearance, right, was helping build my confidence. In fact, I learned the total opposite is true through therapy and heartaches and heartbreaks and hard life lessons that God had to show me and teach me. I learned that self-confidence comes from within. Self-confidence is not something that you can buy. Self-confidence cannot be handed to you. Self-confidence cannot be given to you. Self-confidence cannot be found at the mall. You literally have to do the inner work. And it is not easy, and it's not going to happen overnight. Self-confidence is a process that takes a while. And I don't believe that you're ever done building and becoming the most confident, the most evolved version of yourself, because we're growing and we're learning new things every day. So if you are learning, or if you want to learn how to build your confidence, if you want to learn how to strengthen your confidence, or if you want to hear just more information about confidence, this episode is going to do just that for you. I'm going to be pouring into you and letting you know the mistakes I made, the things I went through to help me become this version of myself, the confident version of myself, the better version of myself. I would love to say the best version of myself, but I know that I'm still growing. I still got things I'm working on. But right now I can say that my confidence comes from within and not from anything that's on me. Literally, I can show up in a room with nothing, a trash bag on, hair undone, and I'm going to feel like I'm that girl because that's just who God made me to be. All right. So first things first, learn to trust yourself. Learn to trust yourself, because if you do not learn how to trust yourself, you are setting yourself up for failure. And why are you setting yourself up for failure? Because you are putting the power in other people's hands. You are putting the power in the opinions of other people instead of learning to trust your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own feelings. You run into other people before you even run to God. You run into other people before you even consult with yourself first. Have you ever just taken the time to sit with yourself when a situation happens? Now, don't get me wrong. I once fell victim to being the person that always picked up the phone. I had to call somebody whenever my emotions and situations were very heated or emotions were high, right? Whenever I went through a situation with a man in my past, I would probably go run to my friends, maybe even call my mom, like, Ma, tell me why da-da-da-da, what should I do? Or call my homegirls, girl, what should I do? Da-da-da-da just happened. This just happened at the job. And it's like, it's cool to seek wise counsel, but it has to be emphasis on the wise counsel, because sometimes all the counsel is not wise, okay? The people that you confiding in 9 times out of 10 are only sharing with you advice based off of what they've gone through. You only know what you know, right? So 9 times out of 10, you only going to give advice based off what you've seen, what you've heard, and what's been done to you and the environment that you've been brought up in. Keep in mind, let's just say you talking to your grandma. She going to give you advice based off the 60s, 50s, 40s, or however old your grandma is. My grandma kind of young in turn. So I don't know how old your grandma is, but 9 times out of 10, she going to give you that type of grandma advice. Okay. Your mama going to give you some mama advice based off what she seen and what she heard in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Your homegirl's going to give you advice based off of what she probably seen on the internet or what she's going through today with her man or her other friends. You know what I'm saying? So it is so important to learn how to trust yourself, because when you learn how to trust yourself, you will learn the importance of emotional intelligence. It's not until you have to sit with yourself. It's not until you force yourself to sit with yourself for you to really understand how you feel and how to regulate. One thing that I learned in therapy was emotional regulation. Now, that is something that I'm still working on. Okay. But I understand that it is not wise to just run to other people before you collect your thoughts and you gather your opinion on the situation. Because let me just use myself for example. I have been cheated on in my past, right? Now, I'm not going to say that I'm walking around here like I'm bitter Betty, okay? We ain't bitter, but we also are very aware, okay? And I'm not going to say that I'm going to give, if my friend come to me about advice for a man, I'm not going to say I'm going to lead with that, but that is always going to be in the back of my mind, because based off of my trauma, in the back of my mind is like, you might need to check that phone. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to say I'm telling a friend to do that, but based off of what I've gone through, I only know what I know. Same thing for your friends. You calling your friends as soon as something happened in your relationship or at your job, they are only going to give you advice based off of what they went through. I'm going to give you another example. I obviously am a business owner. Or again, if you are new here, I'm a business owner. I've been an esthetician for 6 years. I've had my shop for 5. And let me tell you guys that, I've been a licensed lash tech for 6 years, and I've been an esthetician for 4 years. I'm getting my years mixed up. But you guys, I cannot always go to friends or people who are not business owners, because they gonna give me advice based off of a person who is probably like a consumer. You know what I'm saying? I gotta go to friends, and I gotta go to people who have businesses or have things that they're selling or providing, or who are working with customers, because it's no shade to, let's say, my friends who don't have a business, but they are not going to understand it to the best of their ability because they just haven't been put in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to confide in the people that it makes most sense. Everything is not for everybody. You cannot talk to everybody about every little thing. And so as I've grown and I matured, I realized that it is better for me to pray about it and for me to sit with it or talk to the person that I have the issue with. You know what I'm saying? Whether that's my partner or a friend, it is always best to sit with yourself, sit with your emotions, and to learn how to trust your gut. I always say that your gut is God speaking to you. Your gut is the Holy Spirit speaking to you. And I'm sorry, not sorry, but I'm always going to get down to the nitty gritty, which is God and the spiritual way of looking at things, because that is the root. That is my source. So if this is your source, I'm letting you know that it is best to confide in God and to pray about it before you go run to other people, because 9 times out of 10, you will be led astray. If you haven't sat with yourself before you talk to a friend, you probably are going to be convinced to do something because your emotions are high that you wouldn't even have done had you just sat with yourself. I don't know if I'm the only one, but there has been several times in my past where I listened to a friend about my relationship and I ended up making a move based off of what my friend told me to do. And I couldn't even stand on business because I was too busy listening to my friend. And it's not that my friend was trying to throw shade on my relationship or cause me to have a breakup or whatever, but my friend can only tell me give me information based off what she's been through. We human. Because guess what? I'm going to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So it is best to look within yourself. Learn to sit with yourself, because you will learn how to regulate your emotions. Now, when I get upset and now when I am feeling confused, obviously I'm going to pray about it. But most importantly, I'm going to sit with myself. I'm going to acknowledge how I feel. I'm going to welcome my emotions, and I'm going to try to cite the source. It is so important to cite the source, because when you look back on, why am I feeling this way? When you ask yourself, what is triggering me? You can get down to the source. When you realize what the source is, you might recognize that the situation, you might be making it a bigger deal because it's reminding you of that little girl or that little boy in you. You know what I'm saying? Your relationship situation could be triggering something that your mom did, that your dad did, that your uncle did, that your cousin did back in the day. You know what I'm saying? So cite the source. When you in school, or if you are in school right now, they always talk about when you writing papers, the teacher is always like, cite your source. The paper ain't even credible if you don't cite the source. And that is because it is so important to figure out where things are coming from. Because the moment you recognize where things are coming from and understand where they come from, you able to check yourself without even calling on a friend. Half the time now, I'm like, okay, that's coming from the little girl that went through this, or that's coming from the girl that went through that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm able to recognize and say like, maybe I'm putting 10 on a 2 on this situation. And I can continue to go on and on and on about this, but I'm essentially saying the same thing over and over again. Let me tell you guys, sit with yourself first before you make any moves, because you can make a mistake by going to your friend before you even gather all your thoughts and the information first. All right. Again, trust your gut. There's a Bible verse, Matthew 6:33, and it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness. That is literally the beginning of the verse. And it's in there for a reason, because we need to be seeking God first before we make any other move, because all counsel ain't wise counsel, period. Now, the next thing is going to be to do the things that you said you were going to do. In the month of February, we are now in March. In the month of February, I decided to commit myself to doing 45 minutes on the Stairmaster every day. And I know that sounds crazy. If you have ever been on the Stairmaster, it feel like you training for the military. But let me tell you something. At the end of that month, I missed 4 days in total. So that means I showed up to the gym for 24 days. Every time I showed up, I was increasing my confidence. Now, we only talking about something as small as the gym. But if you know, it takes a lot of willpower to get up and go. And a lot of those days were cold. It was windy. It was freezing. It was snowstorms. It was ice on the ground. But I made a commitment to myself. And as the days went by, my confidence increased because I kept the promises. And other people are watching you. And my next point is going to be talking against this, because who cares what other people think? But when you make commitments to yourself and people see you keeping the promises that you make, they want to start keeping the promises that they making to you, because you are inspiring people to take you serious. You know why? Because you take you serious. You got to learn that when you take you serious, everybody around you going to start taking you serious. And I'm not going to say people going to be perfect, but what I'm saying is when you start keeping the promises that you make to yourself, you are setting the tone for how people should handle you. And moving forward, you going to use, for example, me. I'm going to look back at, man, in February, I showed up in the gym for 24 days out of the 28. Can't nobody tell me nothing. And that's literally my attitude, respectfully, humbly. Obviously, people can tell me things, but I have built the confidence because of the work that I put in. Again, this is not something that could be bought. This is not something that could be given to me. This is something that is earned. Confidence is one of those things that is earned. Okay, that is what we call owning our power. So think of some ways in which you can make just small promises to yourself, whether that's I'm going to save $25 this week or every week. I'm going to put up this amount of money. I'm going to not go to Target, TJ Maxx, and Marshalls this week or this month. I'm going to do a no save or not a no save. I'm sorry. I'm going to do a save March or March Madness, whatever you want to call it. All I'm saying is once you start keeping the promises that you make to yourself, you will learn, wow, my confidence is increasing and can't nobody tell me nothing because I'm leading by example. I am my example. The third point is to stop giving a fuck. Stop giving a fuck. Okay. And I'm sorry, like my grandma say, excuse my French, but I understand now today why it is important to not care about what other people got to say about what you got going on. The month of January, I decided to read one book each month. Now, I did mess up. I didn't read a book in February, but in January, I read this book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And this book, when I say I got so many pages folded and highlighted and marked because this book literally changed my perspective on life. You know, this is one of them ones. And once you reach a certain point in your life, you realize that other people's opinions do not matter because 9 times out of 10, people are only projecting how they feel about themselves onto you. And you can't even blame people for that because, again, like I said before, people only know what they know. So what I'm going to encourage you to do today is stop giving a fuck. Do all the things you said you want to do. Be cringy. Do it scared. Do it tired. Do it unsure. Do it confused. And I'm telling you, the more you show up for yourself, things are going to start getting clear for you. But the first step to all of that is stop giving a fuck about what other people think and what other people got to say. If you don't have to report to them people, and we don't have to report to anybody but God, and if you are under a certain age, your parents, let me tell you something. Who cares what other people think? And this is something that I had to teach myself because we live in a society where, especially for me, I'm a content creator. I'm showing up every day on the internet. And it's like sometimes you feel like you got to be perfect. Sometimes you feel like you can't have an off moment. Sometimes I feel like I can't have a off week. You know what I'm saying? Or a week where I can't post or a week where I didn't go to the gym. And that's something that I've convinced myself based off the opinions of other people, because as y'all know, I work in the beauty industry and I'll have clients come in like, you still doing your podcast? You still going to the gym? And it's like people clocking your tea before they clock their own tea. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that people are meaning ill by that, but what I'm saying is you can't worry about how other people feel. Do what's best for you at all times, right? And I'm not saying be a selfish person, but sometimes it's important to just be selfish and consider how you feel, because if you banking on the opinions of other people, you're not really going to go far. You know, people can only see in you what they see in themselves. So again, stop giving a fuck, because none of this really matters. All this extra, the frilly, the material things, it don't matter. OK. And yeah, you guys, like, confidence is not something, again, that can be put on you overnight. You got to earn that. You got to earn that shit. Confidence is so hard to develop, especially when you don't have a clue. But this episode, I hope, then gave you just 3 clues. If you just do these 3 things, I'm telling you, you will feel so much better about your life. Literally, you guys, like Nipsey say, it's a marathon, not a race. Take your time with yourself. Give yourself grace. That's something that I'm learning too. Like, give yourself grace, because you're not going to learn these things overnight. Through life experiences, like I said, through heartaches, heartbreaks, hard life lessons, you will learn and you will get closer to the best version of yourself. But it takes time. Okay. And I just want to read this paragraph out of this book. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is by Mark Manson. And I'm going to encourage you guys to order this book today. Okay. They have it on Amazon Prime. But in the book, the bottom of page 19. So I highly recommend, if you get this book, highlight this paragraph. And it says, essentially, we become more selective about the fucks we're willing to give. This is something called maturity. It's nice. You should try it sometime. Maturity is what happens when one learns to only give a fuck about what's truly fuck worthy. And what that's saying is, you only need to worry about the things that you have on your priority list. If it's not on the priority list, scrap it. Forget about it. Who cares, right? And life is already hard enough. Like, we don't need to give a fuck about every little thing. Do the best that you can, give the best that you got, and go to bed at the end of the night, period. And wake up the next day and do it all over again. You know what I'm saying? But the only person that we got to report to for real is God. Now, of course, we got our boss, we got our parents, you know what I'm saying? Depending on what age you are. But let me tell you something. Stop giving a fuck. Life will feel better. It's freedom and not giving a fuck. Okay. And yeah, you guys, that wraps up episode. What episode is this? I think this is episode 17. Don't let me get the line. I don't even know. I think it's 17 though. But yeah, you guys. Am I making up a number? I don't even know what episode this is. But anyway, I just want to encourage you to be confident, you guys. Don't worry about all these material things. Like, it's about the work that you do inside. It's about showing up for yourself. It's about self-development, and all of that happens inside. I'm telling you, happy people who are at peace are minding their business, worried about themselves, pouring into themselves. People who are happy and truly at peace, they don't even have time to worry about you and what you got going on. You don't have time to worry about other people. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you guys, as y'all know, I always wrap up each episode with the And Now I Know segment. So, and now I know that self-confidence is something that is earned. It cannot be given. It cannot be placed upon you. You got to do the work within yourself to become this self-confident person, right? It takes a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it is so worth it. You got to be okay and be willing to do the hard things. Right? The hard things is what's going to increase your confidence. The hard things is what's going to take you to the next level. Right? The only time that a person really grows is when they go through hard things, when they go through challenging things. And building confidence can be challenging to some, especially if, you know, you were brought up a certain way, or you don't have all, you know, it's like certain privileges, you know. It might not be as easy. You might be starting at ground zero. So again, I go by 32 Flavazz. I am your host. Be sure to follow me on all streaming platforms, on all platforms. And be sure to download this episode and let me know how you guys felt about this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, or even if you can leave a comment, on Apple Music or Spotify podcast. Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts. And just let me know what you do to build your confidence or to increase your confidence. Because, again, this is not something that happens overnight. So, again, I love y'all. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. And I will see you next time. Mwah.